Welcome to 7 Recaps. Before we start, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. At the outset of the film, we are introduced to Iris, who is engulfed in grief over the loss of her son, Mateo. The only remnant of him she possesses is a solitary toy boat. While her husband slumbers, she decides to take the car for a drive to clear her thoughts. Iris parks the car and proceeds on foot to a location filled with memories, where a memorial for Mateo stands. She focuses on the initials etched into a tree, a poignant reminder of her son. As she reminisces, she is drawn into a deep well of despair, with overwhelming negative thoughts as she nears the precipice, contemplating a final step that would end her suffering and reunite her with her son at the site of his tragic fall. In that critical moment, Richard appears, seeking to dissuade Iris from her decision by sharing his own story. He has endured considerable trauma, particularly stemming from a devastating car accident that claimed the life of his girlfriend, Chloe. Following this tragedy, he spent 2.5 months in the hospital, unable to move. Iris recounts the circumstances surrounding her son's death, revealing that she had left him to play alone, which ultimately led to his tragic demise. The two share a profound emotional connection, both marked by their respective losses. Their encounter leaves a significant impression, with Richard striving to persuade Iris that even amidst despair, life can still possess moments of beauty. As they part ways, both individuals experience a fleeting sense of comfort. However, as Richard walks away, he observes that Iris has reconsidered her decision, and they begin to walk together toward her car. Richard had parked nearby, signaling the time for their separation. Yet, in a surprising turn, Richard positions himself to block her door, preventing her from entering her vehicle. He exits his own car, brandishing an umbrella that he employs as a taser. In a sudden and alarming move, Richard forces her into his car, restraining her. Iris awakens to find herself in a vehicle with an unfamiliar man who has abducted her. Her hands are bound, and although she attempts to use her smartwatch, Richard assures her that there is no emergency SOS available and hands back her toy boat. Seizing a knife from her pocket, Iris gradually frees herself from Richard's hold and distracts him while he is driving, resulting in the car crashing into a tree. They engage in a struggle within the vehicle, ultimately tumbling out onto the ground. It is here that Richard discloses a chilling truth. Iris has only 20 minutes before her body begins to shut down, rendering her completely paralyzed and unable to communicate. Determined to escape, Iris's actions hasten the effects of the injection she received. As she flees, Richard chases after her, and soon Iris becomes aware that her physical capabilities are diminishing. She sets a timer for 20 minutes, after which she collapses, each subsequent step becoming increasingly arduous, while Richard follows with apparent ease. With time slipping away, Iris can no longer walk and seeks a place to conceal herself. Richard loses her trail and stands directly above her, searching. Ants begin to swarm her face, and in her distress she screams, alerting him to her location. In desperation, she plunges into the water, unable to swim, surrendering to the waves. The current pushes her toward a tree, and she uses her arms to reach the surface, as her legs have failed her. On the grass, her remaining time is dwindling, and she becomes immobile, losing her ability to speak, yet she retains the capacity to see and hear everything around her. Helpless and voiceless, she lies as the machine approaches. She closes her eyes, but Richard halts. At this moment, we are introduced to Bill, who attempts to assist her but quickly realizes that Iris is unresponsive. He turns her over and moves his finger in front of her eyes to ascertain if she can see it. Iris can hear him and manages to blink her eyes to confirm her awareness. One blink signifies yes, while two indicate no. Bill then takes her home with him. A brief moment passes before a knock is heard at the door, prompting Iris to blink rapidly several times. Bill opens the door to find Richard, who asserts that he has been involved in a car accident and is searching for his wife. Bill instructs him to wait and steps inside to retrieve his phone, with Richard following closely behind, feigning illness. Richard requests the phone, claiming he has misplaced his own. Although Bill is inclined to assist, he remains cautious. Richard inquires whether Bill has a wife and attempts to build rapport in order to ascertain Iris's whereabouts. Bill reveals that his wife passed away from a heart attack and confesses that he has not been entirely truthful. At that moment, the phone rings, interrupting him, as Richard's claim about losing his phone is revealed to be false. Bill quickly concocts a story, stating that he has placed Iris in a shed outside. As Richard approaches, he is forcefully shoved beneath the bookshelf. Bill manages to call for help, gaining the upper hand in the ensuing struggle. While on the ground, Richard discovers a knife and assaults Bill, stabbing him in the leg and then in the abdomen, leaving him for dead. Richard checks the shed and finds Iris missing. He resolves to set the entire place ablaze. Meanwhile, Iris, hidden behind the bed, can only move her finger. Richard prepares to ignite the premises, dousing it in gasoline, when he hears the signal Iris makes with her finger. Noticing blood beneath the bed, he realizes she is concealed there, ignites the fire, and departs in his car. As he drives, his daughter calls to inform him of her good change of heart and her intention to visit the following day with her mother. Richard insists on speaking to his wife, who confirms the plan, leaving him with no option but to agree. Running low on fuel, he stops at a gas station, dons his sunglasses, and leaves Iris alone in the vehicle. She surveys her surroundings and notices several individuals in front of her, attempting to maneuver while pressing her hand against the seatbelt in an effort to liberate herself. She shifts her body toward the window, and a child approaches, evoking memories of her son. The child's mother comes over and takes him away, after which Richard returns and promptly rebuckles her seatbelt. He then returns to his earlier vehicle, where he collects equipment for later use and conceals it beneath his shirt. Subsequently, he prepares a wire to connect to his car and encounters a police officer. The officer taps on the window, but Iris remains unable to speak. Richard hears the knock and rises to address the officer, who indicates he is searching for this truck and wishes to speak with Iris. Richard claims that she is intoxicated, but he faces a dilemma as his driving license has expired. He begins recounting a story about his wife driving under the influence, crashing into a tree, and being alone at the time. The officer inquires about the injury on Richard's head, to which he cannot provide an answer. During their exchange, Iris manages to open the window, prompting the officer to seek her account. Richard concocts a narrative that she left him after the loss of their son, Mateo. He returns to Iris, who whispers for help, and the officer notices the object concealed under Richard's shirt. Richard then assaults the officer with the wire, resulting in the officer's death, after which he finds himself back in his vehicle, now drenched in gasoline. At this point, it becomes evident that the injection is no longer present, as Iris has moved it closer to herself. As they drive, her ability to speak returns, and she discusses how he was restrained to a bed for 2 months, a period that drove him to madness, during which he claims to have gained clarity. Following the death of his girlfriend, he expressed gratitude to her. Iris attempts to reach his emotional core by warning him that he could lose his daughter and wife if he persists in his current course of action. He alters his plan, now intending to drown her as he feels time is running out. Iris, in a final act of desperation, attempts to inject a substance into her leg, but lacks the necessary strength to do so effectively. Richard intervenes, taking the injection from her and using it to empty the contents. This action provokes a scream from Iris as he seizes a knife and the accompanying equipment. Subsequently, he transports her to a boat, preparing her for what he deems the final destination. Overcome with emotion, Iris begins to cry out, capturing his attention. In her distress, she pleads for him to retrieve Mateo's boat from her pocket. Richard acquiesces, inadvertently dropping the knife, which grazes his face. He then brandishes a gun, but as Iris shifts the boat, the weapon slips from his grasp and plunges into the water. Seizing the opportunity, Iris retrieves the gun and fires at him, though she inadvertently strikes the boat as well, causing it to take on water. Struggling to maintain control, she finds herself drowning alongside the sinking vessel, leaving only a toy boat visible. Moments later, she resurfaces and swims to safety. On the opposite shore, she spots Richard, who has managed to reach land and is regaining his strength, prompting her to approach him. Her final words, "Thank you," echo the sentiments he expressed to his girlfriend, Chloe, before her tragic death, leaving him behind in a state of helplessness as he bleeds out.